It's Friday. It's pre-recorded. Now the show Dozens Love the 9 Years podcast.
Hello everybody, welcome to the 9 Years podcast, episode 185 with Nick Draper and the face of the BBC Sport website, Stuart Deakins. Thank you very much for downloading the show this week. As always, available on iTunes, YouTube, 9yrspodcast.org and Spotify now as well. All the usual nonsense that we do on the podcast will come up, but there's only one thing to talk about really, and we're going to get straight into it. Where this podcast goes, Stu, nobody knows, because we have essentially, and we won't repeat it on air, we pretty much have a one-word script this week. We won't repeat the word. It's not a very nice word. It would be a good word that could come after the words Milton and Keynes in a certain football club's, in inverted commas, name. I think it would suit them better than what they've got currently. A word that we still apparently have to use when discussing them officially as it stands. I really don't know what to say, Stu. I've got so many thoughts on this matter. This fixture is a headfuck, and I can feel it. I can feel it rising inside of me. We've been preparing this podcast this sort of early evening. I've been getting angrier and angrier. Probably it's my own fault because I'm allowing myself to, and I should probably step back and take a big, wide view of it all and take a few deep breaths and what have you. But no, the reason I've decided not to do that was because on Saturday at half-time, I was, I think, for the very first time, absolutely embarrassed and ashamed to be a Wimbledon fan. And I was shaking with anger as I stood there at half-time. And you know what? I stayed in my seat at half-time because... And there's all these, we're going to get onto all this stuff about people that don't want to go because they don't want to give money to that team, whatever, fair enough, I understand that. And then people look at me, who's someone that goes, and I've been every single time we played them. We played them 9 times, by the way, and we've lost 6 of them. But I sit in my seat because I don't spend a penny extra. I pay what I have to pay to get into the stadium. I don't buy a programme. I don't buy any concessions or anything like that. And I certainly don't use their facilities. All right? I don't want to be there. I really don't want to be there. I've sort of got myself into some sort of moral duty about doing it. But the whole fixture is just, like I say, it's just a head fuck. I don't understand it, and I think we as a club don't understand it. But the reason I was ashamed and embarrassed was because of that pitiful performance. Again, we were here 3 weeks ago, Stu. I cannot believe people are saying to me, and they've said to me, you're overreacting. It was a bad performance. It was a bad first half. The second half was better. The second half was much better. Second half wasn't much better, by the way. That's an absolute myth. But anyway, the point is, that first half was not only the worst half of football I think I can remember in the history of watching Wimbledon, be it Wimbledon FC or AFC Wimbledon, but it came 3 weeks after the same thing happened in the League Cup. The last thing I expect is to go to watch that fixture again and the same level to appear in front of me again. It was, and close to being, unforgivable, to the point where everyone's saying, well, we're owed a performance against Shrewsbury. I actually don't think I care anymore. I think we could turn up against Shrewsbury and be 4-0 up at half-time, and I'll be thinking in the back of my head, on national TV, against the team that stole us and ruined many a child's childhood, by the way, we didn't turn up again. And I am still, you can hear it in my voice, I have never been so furious. There is a big problem with this fixture, and we need to sort it out. And there are many reasons I think there is, but, and I know I'm going really off on a tangent now, the thing that gets me is that it's almost as if we've given up thinking they did anything wrong. The whole football world seems to have given up. Tell me right now, can I follow up your question, Stu? Do you think, we talk about what we've done with AFC Wimbledon, and of course, look, I'm not diminishing the achievements of what we've done, and we did an amazing thing, an amazingly positive thing, which was the best thing we could have done, really, in terms of what happened to the former Wimbledon FC. We set up again. It's amazing. I'm not trying to, this is not about what we've done ourselves, but the flip side to this coin is, Milton Keynes, that football club, essentially, they've won, because they've got away with it. What sanction, what punishment, what bad thing has happened to them for committing the greatest act of theft in football history. Don't forget, football is the biggest sport in this country. It's the most massive thing possibly in our culture, or one of the most biggest things in our culture. And they've committed the greatest theft ever. And nothing's happened. They're just getting on with life. They don't really give a shit that we set up a team and we're now playing them, do they? They probably quite enjoy it because they get to rub our faces in it even more than what they did, because they still get to parade their stupid name in front of us. They get to beat us 6 times out of 9. And to be honest with you, looking at that first half, against a team and a club that didn't really look like they cared in the slightest.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you said, to be honest with you. I think the biggest frustration that I have is that it feels now like they're the ones now claiming that they're hard done by. So they're now claiming that we didn't put them in a program, didn't put on the scoreboard. And it's like they're going to say, well, do you know what? People should feel sorry for us. Those AFC Wimbledon, or actually they don't even say Wimbledon. All they do is, of course, AFC every time. But all they seem to do is moan about things that we don't do. And it's like no one should ever feel sorry for a club that basically stole a club. Listen, we can say about their fans, and their fans are all like, the propaganda that's been fed to them is that we deserted our club. When you look at the background to it, we all know there was a 3-man panel that had no challenge. We all know they wanted to move into Milton Keynes earlier than what they did, but they couldn't. So to say that we didn't try and save our club, and it was a club that was going to fall wayside, I just don't understand it. I really don't. It makes me chuckle. I've read something, you're starting me off now, but I read something today where it said, well, our club was going to die. There was no way we could survive at Sellers Park. Okay. Tell me, how did we survive then and get a ground and actually raise £2 million to buy Kings Meadow? How did we do that? Because then our club was never going to die. If we were to keep our club, we would have cut our cloth accordingly. Yes, we'd have probably dropped into League Two. We may have dropped into the conference, but we'd have easily be able to bought that club. So it does feel to me now, it's the pity seems to be on them. It's like, oh, look at hard done by. Oh, look at they keep attacking our fans, and now they're trying to claim that actually Wally wasn't surrounded, and Wally made the funniest comment ever. And actually, I did endear to him when he said, I don't run. Not because he don't want to run or can't run, he ain't going to run, and I'll get that with Wally. But it does feel to me, if I go back to where I want to start from this, the EFL really, really are annoying me, because one, they didn't do the right investigation for Bury and Bolton. They don't seem to care about anyone else. However, they want to now get involved in our situation and not have any empathy at all to what's going on. Why would you force a club when they've been stolen, and you know what the issue is? They all know the issue is Dons. That's the biggest issue. Why then would you punish a club for not doing it? Why wouldn't you say, do you know what, guys? We know where this is. We know it's an issue. Let's just agree as adults that you don't mention it. You don't have to put it in the programme. We know where it is. It's a contentious issue. Let's stay away from it. No, the EFL now want to hold us up and say, oh, actually, John, we're going to penalise you. We're going to put sanctions on you. And just making the whole situation worse. And to flip it around, unfortunately, the news that come out on the Dons Trust meeting on Monday to say there's been a disclosure where we can't discuss it, unfortunately has antagonised it, because basically all we've done is we've bent over and gone, you can shove that as hard as you can up our backsides, because actually we're going to do everything that we shouldn't do, but because we're so scared of the EFL, we're going to do it.
I mean, it does come across that way. I can see how it comes across to you. I get so the non-disclosure agreement with this mediation thing. I get it in terms of when you're having the discussions to sort this out, but then part of me is starting to think, why are we mediating with them? And, points were made that, well, we'd be threatened with all this and that and the other with sanctions and what have you.
Well, test them.
Well, exactly. Because you know what? Bolton and Bury have Bury has not so much, but Bolton have pretty much taken the piss out of them this year, to be honest with you. Yeah. And they've bent over to them. So if Bolton are going to get away with what they've done, you're telling me that we're going to be thrown out of the league because we don't call them by that their full name?
Yeah. Well, I understand what you're saying about the non-disclosure. I accept that. However, if we are now honest and go, well, since we drew them in the cup, which, hey, look, us drawing them in the cup was the worst thing that could have happened for any club, especially for us, because all it done was then the mediation obviously was going on. But the reason why the fans are, well, not disappointed, actually really upset about this, is because we can't see anything in our mitigation. All we can see is that we've bent over and gone, okay, we're mentioning your full name in our commercial stuff. We're mentioning it on our Twitter. We're mentioning your full name on the OS. So all the fans are going is, 1 second, you've got a non-disclosure, but actually we already know that we've given in, because actually all the things that we would never want to do, we're doing. And I don't know about you, some people go, oh, but it's their name. We know that Dons is the biggest issue. They hold on to it to rattle our cage. They don't. Why would you want to keep it? Some people go, oh, but that's our history. You have no history. You stole the club. That's your only history. You know full well that Dons is basically something that antagonises us. And unfortunately, as fans and as a club, we bite. And they love it when they bite, because they get pleasure out of that. But then the mitigation now feels to me, we've given into everything. How can we go backwards now? Because we've gone now, well, we're mentioning your full name in our programme. We're mentioning your full name on our scoreboard if it ever works. How can you go back and say we're not going to mention it? Because EFL will go, well, you're okay to do it in August last year.
Yeah, exactly. That is the problem with that issue. And there's another side point, and I'm very sorry to our listeners this week, because as you can tell, my points are my opinions. And again, I will point out, this is my opinion. I know that there are going to be people listening that have different opinions, and that's absolutely fine. Okay. And we will gladly hear from them. And we did last time on the last podcast. I'm sure we will again on this situation. And that's the whole point. We all have different opinions. It's fine. There are two things, though, leading from that. The first one is what I would say to you there, Stu, is when you write about what they did and stole their club and then took the name and continued to parade the name. And then, I'm sorry, that song and that banner, where were you when you were us? They were never us. We need to stop with this. They were never us. They stole our league place, and now they just parade our name as if to rub salt into the wounds. It just doesn't work for me on any level. There are many songs we sing to them that, of course, I do agree with full-heartedly. But anyway, the other thing is, yes, there is an issue where we're speaking about this, like you say, and people have got different opinions about, yes, it's a name and only a name, and we should get on with it. That shows the difference, and you're right, they love antagonising us because we bite. Well, not all of us bite. Some of us don't care. Some fans don't go. Some fans don't acknowledge the fixture whatsoever. Unfortunately, I think we have learned now over 9 games with them, it would be 9, wouldn't it? Of course, is that lot in Buckinghamshire have a very united message about how they deal with us. We're all over the shop. We have no consistent message. And this, nothing can be done now, okay? It's hindsight being 2020. It's in the past, so this can't be changed. So a lot of people will be thinking this is a moot point, or a moo point. It's like a cow, no point. But back in 2012 was the first time we played them. We could have played them a year or two earlier as well. We just avoided each other because they lost in the FA Cup when we were drawn. Doesn't matter. In reality, what we should have done is, back in the early days, in the early years of our formation as AFC Wimbledon, is we should have sat down and had that discussion then about how we were going to handle this fixture. Because what we didn't make any decisions. We got to the FA Cup second round game. We had 2, maybe 3 weeks at most, although in the FA Cup 3 weeks maybe at that stage, to plan about ticketing arrangements and all that and what have you. And at that point, it was too late to really make a consensus decision. I have said that I've been to every single game, every single time we've played them. However, I was never intending to ever go. But the first time I played them in the FA Cup, it was quite apparent that there was a large number of people that were interested in going, that wanted to go and were going to go. I would have, and I still believe this, the best thing we could have done that day was nobody went. And we just we either took the decision and we said, like you say, let's test the Football League and what they say. We refuse to play the fixture, or if we're going to have to play the fixture, we refuse the ticket allocation. Nobody goes. And you have 3,000 empty seats in the away end when we play them. That sends a massively strong message. When it became apparent that was not going to happen, the next best thing to do was that everybody went, and we packed that away end. Because there would be nothing worse than seeing a half-full away end. It would just look rubbish and would send a really bad message. Unfortunately, ever since that first game in the FA Cup, that's what's happened. We've taken anywhere from like 300 in the Johnston Paints Trophy game, which we actually won, to, I think, not last season, but season before, when we had the 0-0 draw. We talked about last week when Bartram missed that great chance. We took about 1,200. Last week we took about 600. It's just all very... Unfortunately, that is kind of a sign of weakness. And it's very nice to say that everybody should treat the game the way they feel and the way they're conscious of it, and no one should be made to feel bad for it whatsoever. And yes, of course, that is the case. But maybe when you're a club that's owned by the fans, that has or is run and overseen by a democratically elected board, then surely democracy should have come into action here, and we took a vote on it and said, how are we going to handle it? This is what we're going to do. Because I actually think I actually have a feeling if we'd have done that in 2004, people would have said not to go.
Yeah. I think we always hoped that we would never be in the same league as them, did we? Hey, look, it's not our fault they're shit. So, unfortunately, we were in the same league as them. But I think you're right. There's no consistent... The problem I had with the fixture on Saturday is that it looks embarrassing. And you were saying in terms of you were embarrassed to be there. There was some things I was embarrassed. One, that we allowed their chairman or club stealer to be on Sky and basically just promote everything that he wanted to in terms of how good Milton Keynes were. Why the heck... Sky really disappointed me in terms of I wanted to throw something through my TV, but I just bought it and I don't want to waste it. I don't want to destroy it. But they start. I don't know if you've watched the footage back. I don't think you would have. But on Sky, they basically They showed Wally and someone at the ground, Plough Lane, that they were going to do a feature on. That never happened. So all I can assume is that Knob Features basically talked longer than what because let's be fair, he could talk to anybody about how great his city is. Don't know about that. But basically, Sky allowed him to say everything that was great about Milton Keynes. Where are we? Surely we should be going, and 1 second, why can't we have our CEO on there? Why can't we have... There was no balance. And then when you look at it, the team unfortunately done exactly what they did in the League Cup game. For whatever reason, they're not up for it. The game's too big for them. They can't get near them because the team's better than us from a team point of view. But then the funny thing is, you couldn't see our fans because, of course, since the game when we all encroached on the pitch, they've been able to stick us up in the top tier now. And that now becomes consistent. So every time now, they put us in the top tier. Well, how is that consistent with every other club that goes there? Because every other club can have as many seats as they want. But what I mean by that is that the game looked fast because it wasn't played in a tempo that more, it's not a derby. So it's not a Rangers Celtic, the police treat it at the same level. But if you look at any game like Hibs Hearts, Glasgow Celtic against Glasgow Rangers, Arsenal Tottenham, the game is played at some sort of tempo, but all you saw was an empty stadium, and you couldn't even see our fans. It made our fans look even worse because actually, if I was looking from someone going, oh, that's AFC Wimbledon, they were the ones that had their club stolen, well, where are their fans? Every message that Milton Keynes do deliberately either antagonises us or makes us look stupid. Even to the extent of calling us AFC. How many times can they do that and then moan about the fact we don't include their stupid name on our scoreboard?
But then, and this might surprise you, I did actually, by the end, manage to get myself together to watch the Sky coverage back. And there's an interview with Wally Downs before the game. And it wasn't really an interview with Wally Downs, it was one of those montages they put together with sound bites from different people. And guess who's calling us AFC as well? That doesn't help. Like
he's always caused that, hasn't he?
Look. We've had this conversation on the podcast before, where I have said I am a Wimbledon FC person, not an AFC Wimbledon person, and I know that's going to upset people when I say that, but that's just because, and I'll make the point again. I fell in love with Wimbledon FC. AFC Wimbledon is the same but different. He is probably thinking along the same lines, okay, that, he was Wimbledon FC, he was the first apprentice, he was this, that and the other, and this is not... It's almost like in his head it's not the same. But no matter what I say that, they're two separate kind of entities, the thing that connects those two entities is the name Wimbledon. So it doesn't matter if the badge is yellow and blue and it's Wimbledon FC, or if the badge is black and white and whatever else it is, and called AFC Wimbledon. The thing that connects those two things is Wimbledon. So we are Wimbledon. Can we please refer to ourselves as that? AFC now, and it has been for a long time, is redundant in the sense of we're Wimbledon. Sunderland are Sunderland, Bournemouth are Bournemouth. No one puts them as AFC Wimbledon. They don't go to the top of the league on the BBC Sport website because their name starts with an A. Our name starts with a W. The A is irrelevant. And we really need to get... And again, that's another sign, Stu, of what I'm saying. Inconsistent message. It's an inconsistency within the club. We don't even know what we should be referring to ourselves as. The
challenge you've got now, though, is you're right, and with Wally, this isn't to attack Wally on what he calls AFC. I'd rather attack him on how he put a team out on Saturday.
With 4 centre halves.
I know, but we can get to that. But he's openly got on record saying that there was only one other club he would come back to play for. So he obviously knows that connection. I think the problem we've got now is that we've always been referred to as AFC Wimbledon. We've had many people say about should we just change Wimbledon. Me personally, I see both sides. Unfortunately, when we play this fixture, and it annoys me as hell it does, I just want to be called Wimbledon. I've always said we're Wimbledon. If some people go to me, whenever you meet someone, are you them up from Milton Keynes or you? No, I'm Wimbledon. Because we're the only club that is proud enough to keep the name Wimbledon. They keep the Dons because that's their. It's like when someone murders somebody, they keep a reward, don't they? It's like in the football terms, they've kept the Dons. That's their trophy. That's their that's what we did. Do you know what I mean? And they still get wound up because we still keep hold of it. But I think AFC Wimbledon. There's two sides. The youngsters, and it's probably where I'm going with. I think the game now is being made out to be a derby or anything like that because the youngsters are the ones that actually, you were saying about don't go. I think that'd be a nightmare to do because I still think there are people that would go because ultimately they actually enjoy playing them because of that and that stuff around the game. However, we are being made to look really stupid by one, how we perform on the game. Two, you're right, there's no consistent message. There just isn't. You're right. Their consistent message is always to cause a pub team, to always cause AFC Kingston or AFC Northampton, always cause AFC. They consistently do it, and it consistently winds us up. What do we do with them? We just don't do anything consistent. From what I understand, our football club board went to them on Saturday. I don't know where they sat, but we should never have been anywhere near them at all in terms of that. Yeah, and it's just, again, these mixed messages. This is not to have a go at Joe either, who we get on really well with, but there is such a mixed message. And that is why you've got a lot of fans now disagreeing with each other because actually some go, well, I quite like that. No, I don't do that. I don't go to a game. No, I'm not going to spend anything on their merchandise. All this sort of rubbish. You're right. I think you hit a nail on the head. There is no consistency to how we deal with them. And all we know now is the mediation. And I'm just reading the statement here, which it actually winds the hell out of me now. I'm just reading it. Can I just read this? Right. This is the EFL Executive Chair, Debbie Jevons, who's had a lot of... what's the word? Yeah, a lot of people's frustrated at how she's dealt with Bury and Bolton and the mess we have now with our a league that looks lopsided. But basically she said, I would like to thank all those involved for their continued support in what is clearly a emotive situation, not only for supporters but all those associated with both clubs. We will continue to work with both our members with the ambition of securing a long-term positive outcome that we know both parties are eager to achieve. How the hell can you... that makes me boil. How... Positive. What is positive? Yeah, we bend over so they can, shove it up our backsides as quickly and as many times as they want. This is what we're dealing with. We just have to, this non-disclosure thing rattles me more and more I think about it. The Dons Trust board have to get an opinion from what the fans want. Have to. Because at the moment, all we are seeing, and they may say we're wrong on this, but all we are seeing is we've given in because actually the part of the mediation goes here. So let me just read it. Said the league, whilst mediation continues, this features the name of MK Dons on the website, match tickets, match programmes, team sheets, and scoreboard as applicable in a manner that's consistent with all other teams that visit the Cherry Red Record Stadium. So tell me, where do we now do our mediation? Because as far as I'm concerned, we've basically given them everything they need.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. We don't know, and you're right. We'll be told that we don't know. We don't know what we get out of this mediation by the end of it at all. We don't know what we're...
What can you get out of it? What more?
Well, exactly. We can't get them to... We cannot force them to change their name. That's not going to happen. I don't know. I really don't know what... Well, I guess we wait and see. I mean, the point... I picked up the point there about our board attending the game. They didn't accept any hospitality or anything like that. They were in attendance, but there were no niceties or anything like that. They were in no boardrooms or having lunches or anything like that. I can tell you that 100%. And Ivor was actually in the away end because I saw him in the away end. So there's that. I think there was a little bit of something was misconstrued earlier in the week. But
this is
go on. You're going to say what I was going to say. But
that's the problem, isn't it? Because it's just hearsay, and this is the problem. There's no consistency.
Pure and simple.
There's no consistency on there. I just find it amazing that this, and I said this a little while ago, and I think I said to you this privately, this fixture could destroy our season in terms of how we play and the fallout from it. Because, anyone sort of fallout from the Dons Trust board meeting on Monday in terms of how the hell are we given in and how the hell do we do a non-disclosure and how the hell do we not know anything about it? And it's just, I will back up the Don's Trust board wholeheartedly in terms of how busy they are, and we've spoken about, Mark Davis, and we'll go on to this, but Mark Davis attends a meeting every Monday on the committee for the ground, every Monday morning for a whole morning. So what is he doing work-wise? The guy has actually given up his work. So that's a big commitment. We know we know that they are struggling, but this message, this is what, the problem we've got with that club, this is why the reason we were formed is because of them. So it's the biggest emotive subject, and maybe for us old people, obviously you're quite young still, but for us oldies that were around,
25.
for these oldies that were around at the time, it's not easy to forget. And when people say, "Oh yeah, but it's changed now," maybe the younger fans who, and it is not to disrespect our younger listeners and younger fans, but I wholeheartedly say, unless you were there at the time, you can't understand the hurt that happened. Do you know what I mean? You can say you understand it. You seriously, unless you were around it, you can't. And this opens up wounds, because what you feel like is that nothing has changed since we started back in 2002. We are still being done over by an authority who, let's be fair about it, couldn't even kick Bolton out of the league. So if they're threatening us to do sanctions for us, are we that confident they can do that? Let's be honest with you, they couldn't even get rid of Bolton. They couldn't get rid of Bury for 6 games and nothing. No disrespect on Bury, but how many lives did they give Bury? Crikey, if they were a cat, they'd be laughing. So we are just bending over to the EFL, and we have to start testing it. And I'm sorry, if the Don's Trust board don't like that, then they need to start canvassing and speaking to their members and the fans of how this has made them feel.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and we will come back to the Don's Trust, like you said, in a bit. I want to, again, also just you're absolutely 100% could not be more right. In 2002, this is what I'm saying to you when I say I'm a Wimbledon FC person. In 2002, our football club was taken away, and there was a period there where we didn't know if we would have anything. And like I said to you earlier, we all fell in love with Wimbledon FC, and it was taken away. And the pain of that, clearly, 17 years on, does not go away, and actually it gets worse. Now, we all thought when we finished above them in the league, when they got relegated, we played a season in a higher division than them. We thought that was it. We're going back to Wimbledon, we're getting a stadium in Plough Lane, it's all done and dusted. But these 2 fixtures over the past 3 weeks have shown me, and of course people have their different opinions. This is my opinion, this is your opinion. People have different opinions. But the fact that they were there again, and we had to confront them again, you just realise that relegation they had didn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Exactly like I said to you, they've got away with it, they've got their football club, they've had no sanctions whatsoever, and we're the ones being raked over the coals for absolutely nothing. Talking about absolutely nothing, with all that said, Stu, there was the game of football we had on Saturday. I want to make this point about our fans, because you're right. To those people who are watching on TV, I had friends watching on TV that are bizarrely so I've got people that I've only met in the last couple of years, and they're sort of learning about me and AFC Wimbledon, and they're talking to me in the build up to these games, and just like, wow, okay, they've realised very quickly this is not a subject to be joking with me about or bantering me about. And they were watching on Saturday, and they were just like, what's this about? Like, why are you getting so angry about this nothing game in front of no fans, and your fans can't even be bothered? Think about all that history we've talking about what that club have done and what that club continue to do. And at half-time on Saturday, our fans in the stadium were booing our own players. How bad, and what a damning indictment, what a damning statement of our performance in that first half, that in the stadium of that club in Buckinghamshire, we were booing our own players.
Do you think, and this is a question, do you think, well, I know my answer, but do you think they were booing the performance, or do you think they were booing the actual effort, or the actual understanding of what does this fixture mean?
The effort.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can handle a team. You can handle any team performing badly. We've all seen it where we've gone somewhere and we just haven't performed. We've tried to put a ball in behind, and we've tried to get a tackle in, and we're half hour late. But you can live with that, because actually you're going, well, do you know what? They're trying. They're just not very good. Anyone can live with that. Football fans understand that. Most of our lives is supporting. That's your Man City. Well, actually, Man City were rubbish back in the day. But if you're a Wimbledon fan, you can accept that we're not very good. We understand that. But what you can't accept, it's a crime to go to the soulless place in Buckinghamshire and not look like you give a shit. And that's the problem. And unfortunately, I hate to go back to this, but it's really struck a chord in me because my team are reflecting how the club are treating this mediation in terms of they're treating it like it's a laugh. I don't want that. Let's all get a positive attitude, a positive outcome. Let's all be adults. No, there's no adults with this. We don't like you. But please, the team our players represent us, okay? I don't expect them to have that raw emotion. But anyone that had been at the game on a League Cup game would have understood what it meant to the fans. As I said to you before, the atmosphere off the pitch didn't reflect what was on there. But if you've read the history and if your manager and that sort of thing are going, guys, you know what? This is a fixture you need to be up for. You get your first tackle in. You take a booking early on. You make sure they know you're in game. They played, that team in Buckinghamshire had the easiest 45 minutes. And actually, do you know what? When they scored a goal, they were just like, all right, fair enough. But I think that's where I am. The booing of it, they deserve that. But not for the performance because you can play badly. But the effort, two games, and I've not seen a Wimbledon team that I think understands, one, why at the club, and two, what that fixture means. I don't care if I want bookings galore. And we can go on to that because in 2 games against them, we have the sum of 0, not 1 yellow card. I can't believe that.
I'd love to know what the foul count was or what the tackle count was because it was non-existent in the first half. And it was like I was watching a training ground game. It really was. And even in the second half, I'm going to make this point again because people are saying, well, the second half was much better and actually had more shots.
It wasn't. The game was gone.
Game was good. Like, I made the analogy, right? Imagine you're doing an A-level. A-level's over 2 years. Imagine you do bugger all in the first year. You do absolutely nothing, put zero effort in, and you end up with a U for your first year. Okay? Your second year, you put a bit more effort in. That first half on Saturday and you end up with a crap grade. And that's what we ended up with. That first half was a U. That second half, it needed to be A** to redeem themselves. It wasn't that. It was a C at best. Because we were playing a team that were just like, we can stand here all day and watch you fads do anything. For long spells of that half, nothing happened. The fans were chanting at Wally Downs to make a change because there was nothing on that pitch that gave us any thought or any hope that we were going to get back into that game. And Milton Keynes were just stood there like, we can do this all day. It was a training ground exercise for the second half.
It wasn't hard for us to look better than the first half. If you're comparing 2 halves, yes, we played better than we did in the first half. Just running around in the second half would have made you look better in that second half. You're right. We brought on Force for his debut. Within 5 minutes, he's got a goal. There's no doubt that guy looks a different level, and he's in 12 or 13 minutes, he did more up front than, I'm being truthful, Kwesi and Joe Pigott did. But I know in these fixtures, a lot of fans don't want to accept the negative side of it, and what they will do naturally, and I try and do that, is look at, can we get anything positive out of that game? And that's where they're going. Actually, the second half was better, but we have to question if this team can't get up for that game, there was a big problem. We're the leaders in this team. We've said it before. And I'm not going to apologise. But when I look back at the people like Lyle Taylor, Adebayo, Paul Robinson,
Jake Reeves, Danny Bullman,
even Rambo from last year knew exactly what it was about that game. Exactly. If Rambo was playing last year against them, he was a big leader. I know he's playing for a Premiership club now. He's a different level, but his attitude. But to think now that we had players that really understood the fixture, and I remember chatting to Lyle after he scored the goal against them with a 2-0 game, and the guy was, I had a good honest chat with him actually, and he was like, he was really relieved that he scored the goal, but he remember chatting to me, he just went, I now get it, that fixture for him. And then equally, the flip side of it, he was so down when he missed that penalty because he felt that he'd let the whole club down. He hadn't, because he'd already done enough in the bank to us to understand that what the game is. But unfortunately, my opinion of Joe Pigott, I go back to that penalty shootout and the fact he walked off the pitch. The fact that it just summed up to me, you've got no character. And there's no character in that team. Nobody in that on Saturday, can you tell me anybody that actually made you think, yeah, do you know what? They understand this game.
No, that's damning.
There's nobody, is there? There's nobody.
Well, not on the evidence of what I've seen this season, no. No, there's one player you think maybe, but...
Yeah, but Will can't do that. He's playing midfield. Will, let's be fair to Will. He's a centre-half by trade. He's playing in midfield. He's got, we put him as captain. This is great. We give him the captain armband, Joe. You lead by example. We've then gone, actually, Will, do you know what? You play in a position you haven't played before. You've got to learn that game. Because if we saw pre-season, Waddy was teaching him how to play the game in the midfield. He's not a natural midfielder. Ask anybody. And yet we're trying to get him to lead a team that's not fighting. But actually, he's getting overrun because the team are not performing. So how can he be an effective captain? You're asking a hell of a lot of Will Nightingale.
People are going to want us to move on because there's going to be people listening that don't want to talk about this lot anymore in this game anymore. The last thing I want to ask you, I was told off on Twitter for mentioning the fact that I would actually like someone to say sorry. We've talked about this game and how we treat it. It does feel like we've got it right in previous seasons and we've got it wrong so far this season. The club doesn't seem to build up this game or anything whatsoever, like we've already said. There's a united front on the opposite side who do big this game up, and they were under no uncertain terms what this game was. Paul Tisdale, their manager, mentioned it and said he understood what this game meant. We don't get any messages like that. We try and play it down. Do you think... And I asked for it after, because you've mentioned the League Cup game with Joe Pigott when he stormed off. Do you not think after the two performances and the levels of effort we've seen that, because I'm quite frankly stunned, to be honest with you, that after the game, Wally Downs came out and said his main thing after the game was, well, the centre halves were too passive. That was the big thing coming out. The centre halves didn't do enough. I'm thinking, no, I don't care about tactics or formations or systems or anything like that in this fixture. I want you to come out after we've just lost to them again. And basically, people are going to mock me. I don't care. We need an apology. We really do. That's what I'd be doing. If I was wearing a Wimbledon shirt, if I was playing in that team and we lost to them, the first thing I'd be doing is coming out on camera or somewhere to any journalist I could find and be like, sorry. Because, to be honest with you, they're not saying thank you to us for creating the club in the first place to give them a platform to play on in League One. But
no, but you know what? The problem is you can't keep, as a social media team, you can't keep bigging up the fans and how important they are when you then fail to recognise them when you didn't give a performance for the fans. It's a two-way street here. And it feels to me like we just don't want to... This game, we just want to get... the League Cup game, let's do it, let's just let it go. The league game, let's just look. What he has to do is he's obviously not contracted, but he has to do. The EFL will fine us again, won't they, for not doing that? We didn't want to do an appearance on the cameras, but it's part. It's done. Let's just get it away. Let's not talk about it. No play interview after it. No mention about it. Let's just forget about it. And you know what? We'll go to Shrewsbury and it will be all right. It's not. We're bottom. If it weren't for Bury and Bolton, we're bottom of the league. And Southend who were rubbish. We're bottom of the league. We haven't won a game all season. We've lost 4 of the last 6. You can't keep forgetting about this. The players have got to stand up. And what he was basically saying, they were too passive and the kids. And it's like he's trying to protect these kids. And it's like, in a way, to me, he's not really too sure how to deal with these lot. Because I think, in a way, Waddy old school wants to tear a strip out of them. But he also then thinks, it's a new game now, and this manager, I can't go and rip them a new one because they won't play for me, and I'll try and be nice, and I'll try and keep the fans on the side, and I'll try and hold my temper on the touchline. It's like Waddy is conflicted by all these things that he should be doing. But ultimately, you can't just forget about this game, because if we lose against Shrewsbury, and let's be fair, we've not, I just looked at the stats, Shrewsbury, their last 2 visits have beaten us. So a record actually against Shrewsbury isn't that good. If we don't beat Shrewsbury, we go to Coventry or in the top 2, 3.
Yeah, they're up there. Yeah.
We then go, Bristol Rovers. You can't forget about these games, because actually, if that was a one-off, we'd go, do you know what? This team has been brilliant all season. A one-off game, yes, it's against that, but actually we accept that it just didn't happen. No, this team has done it all season. And you can't just sweep it along. You can't keep sweeping it aside, because the pressure's going to start mounting. And unfortunately, for diehards like me who are really upset about how we performed against those two teams, that team twice, my patience has gone a little bit, because all I'm going to do, keep going back, is going, well, didn't do it against the League Cup game, didn't do it against them, didn't show up against Accrington, surrendered at Sunderland. You start going, it's putting pressure on Wally. And people are going to go, here we go, you put pressure on, we loved Ardley and that sort of stuff. Hey, look, let's be honest with you. He's not doing very well. And I don't think he's come out with much credit from that game on Saturday. I don't think the club have come out at all with much credit.
No, none at all.
And you started me ranting. I wasn't going to rant, by the way, but you started me off.
Do you know what, though, Stu? Sometimes I think people need to. I think it's cathartic for me. I don't know if it's about you to actually just rant, but sometimes, do you know what? We don't get enough ranting. And actually, you talked about, were the fans booing the performance or were they booing the effort? And then if I link that to what you're saying about the young players and Wally thinking, well, he can't hammer them because they're young. Well, we can't hammer them because we're going to accept that they're going to make mistakes. We saw a mistake all season defensively leading to errors, which we can put down to inexperience. We can accept that, but you can certainly have a go at them for effort. I mean, with all due respect, like, if I'm teaching a year 5 class when I'm doing with 9 and 10-year-olds, if there's a kid that needs telling, I'm going to tell them. I can't shield them from that. They've got to learn. And we're not talking about 10-year-olds here. We're talking about early 20s. And also, you look at that team, I wouldn't say Apai is young. Piggott's not young. Callum Riley's not young. Callum Riley, first half, by the way, that might have been one of the worst performances of any Wimbledon player ever, that first half. Scott Wagstaff, not young. I wouldn't count Terrell. I wouldn't say Luke O'Neill. I wouldn't say Will.
But why does that happen? Why does that happen with Luke O'Neill? I don't get it. Because they didn't come out they didn't come out bashing us and beating us up and 50-50s and leaving their studs in. They didn't do that. That's what I don't get sometimes. You know what I mean? For me, I didn't feel that they increased their level of performance. There was no different to what we saw in the League Cup game. So, do you know what I mean? Sometimes people can get... a team just comes out against you. Do you know what? You know, we saw it with Luton last year and we saw it with Sunderland and they were just on you. Barnsley, do you remember Barnsley come down? We just couldn't even get a ball. Every time we got a ball, they whacked us and then they outpassed us. Then they had pace beyond us. And in the end, we were just worn out because they were just too good. Now, Luton were the most dogged team I've seen. You know, gave you nothing at all. Every 50-50. Even when they win the game, they still wanted to win a 50-50 because that was what they were built on. But I don't understand why that team on Saturday against us did not come out intimidating us, did not come out working hard on us. They just played their normal passing game, which they're very good at. So I don't know. It's just like, how is that acceptable, that performance? And the players... Hey, look, I would never say anything that I wouldn't say to a player's face on here. I never would. But do you know what? If you want to understand what it meant to Wimbledon fans on Saturday and also League Cup, invite a couple in to do your team talk. Because I know there's a few guys that would come in quite happily and say how let down they were and what they expect from you on Saturday.
Let down is exactly the phrase, Stu. And I think I'm just going to reiterate my point. Absolutely. We were let down. And again, reaction-wise following it, we've had nothing, have we?
That's radio silence because we just want to forget about it.
We want to pretend it didn't happen. Well, there's only so much angst, I suppose, we can deliver for 1 week. Coming up nearly, the podcast is pretty much over.
I feel better now, though. I feel better.
I do. I hope the listeners are.
But do you know what? I accept that everyone's got a different opinion. Some won't agree with us. Some will go, yeah, maybe you're right on that, but I don't agree with that. Some may go, actually, John Stu, you're talking a load of rubbish. That's fine. I can live with that. But that's how I feel on that situation. And football is all about passion. And this club would never be restarted if it wasn't for the passion of all those fans in the early days that went again. And it's just a case of, I can accept not being good enough. I just can't accept feeling let down. And I do. And I'm hoping that my team will, somehow this week, I'm hoping that Wally and Glyn and Von Ryan and Robbo have all got into them and gone, you've got to perform on Saturday. And it ain't about being all of a sudden doing stuff you can't do because, everyone's limiting their ability, but you go out there and work. Because if they don't, it won't take long for this group of fans to turn because they will literally go, you're not doing it.
You mentioned Saturday. Should we get the preview of Saturday's game out of the way and then we can talk about Don's trust meetings and play games and finish off with the ladies? Shrewsbury Town then. You mentioned earlier our record against them is not great. We've not beaten them in the last 8 games. In our last 8 meetings, we have 0 wins against Shrewsbury. Overall, we've won 4, drawn 5 and lost 6. They are currently very inconsistent. 1-2, drawn 2, lost 2 in the league this season. They've only scored 4 goals in the league. So, I mean, how many have we got now?
6.
6? We've done well. You're doing fucking well to have 6.
Don't compare them against that.
The more I think about it, I think, blimey, have we actually scored as many as that? How many wins have we got? Oh, that's right. What is it now, by the way? So that's 1 win in 14? Going back to last season?
Yeah, it's a 1 in 15, isn't it, if we go back to last season? Or if you're honest people that go last season, that's fine. So we've lost 4 of the last 6.
But Shrewsbury themselves, as we say, not great scorers. 4 goals this season, and 3 of those were in one game away at Accrington Stanley, who, of course, we scored 1 against when they had 10 men, and that was an own goal. Anyway, they've got some good signings in for experience. They've got Jason Cummings, Steve Morrison's in, Ebanks Landell has come in, so they've got experience. Sam Ricketts is still a young manager, though, in the league, wasn't he? He came from Wrexham, didn't he, at the end of last year? So still finding his feet in the Football League, I would suppose. Law of averages, Stu, suggests that having not beaten them in our last 8 meetings, we should probably get a win against them at some point, especially if we've not won in the league this season.
Yeah, it should do. You know, you look at their team. One of the things that worries me, they got Aaron Pierre at centre half, who I believe is the old Wickham centre half, who probably will fall over the moment he's touched if Bigger gets close enough to do that. But it does worry me that, again, that sort of strength side of it. Yeah, John, it's interesting. I'm just looking through their fixtures, and there's a website I use that sort of gives all the weaknesses, all their strengths. But you know, they create loads of scoring chances, and but they don't finish off their scoring chances. So Shrewsbury teams are normally quite exciting. You know, we lost 2-1, which I think it was one of Waddy's first games last season, if I remember properly. I think Waddy, because it's 3rd November we lost 2-1.
Wasn't that one of the dying days of Neil Ardley?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I know Waddy come in, didn't he? And he did lose a game at home early on. I was positive.
I'm sure we had because I think we had the following week after Shrewsbury was the Haringey.
Okay, I'm not wrong in that one then.
And that was when Neil was in charge.
I'm just going to be nosy and have a look when... I'm not saying you're wrong for any stretch, but I just remember we played a team. So Waddy come in, Waddy come in the 4th December, so it would have been a season after that.
The season?
Sorry. The month after that. I don't think it's a great game to have. Shrewsbury are not exactly exciting. No disrespect to Shrewsbury, but they're not really exciting. They won't travel in numbers. It would be a bit of a nothing game. It's a game that we're going to have to create the atmosphere and that drive, and Shrewsbury would probably just come and do what they've done. I do worry. I don't see us winning. So I know I'm going to put predictions already. I think the one thing that I hope, and you know, I will say I don't want to take too many positives about the performance in the second half on Saturday. But one thing that did excite me was the fact that we had Force come in, and he showed more in 12 minutes than I've seen a few of our players show all season. And Sanders in midfield, who I think if we can play with him in terms of utilise him, give him the ball to his feet and let him use his passing ability, we've got a chance. So what he's got to make changes. You know, he axed Hartigan, he axed Pinnock, McLaughlin, all from the squad on Saturday. And they played in a 4-2 win during the week. And, you know, Roscoe was amongst the goals, and Wordsworth played centre half by all accounts. I think that's more just to get in minutes, just anywhere. But I think if he can make changes, we may have a chance. But I hate to say it, I just see Shrewsbury coming and doing a frustrating draw or beating us again, unfortunately.
We can't surely go 8 league games into the season without a win. That'd be...
It's a big week, Nick. It's a big week. You know, we've got 3 games in 7 days. So these 3 games will bring us up to 10 league games, which, yeah, for all intents and purposes, actually, with Bury not being around, is probably, a quarter of the season. So already a quarter of the season in, we're already 3 points adrift, of safety. Teams, unfortunately, because of the EFL's fiasco with Madge and Bolton and Bury, or, some people play 5. We've got Pompey about 2 or 3 positions above us, but they played 5 games. The league is just all over the place, but unfortunately what's not all over the place is our consistency of not winning. So it's a big week. There's 3 games this week. If we don't win against Shrewsbury, we go to a Coventry game, which is being played at St Andrews in a big stadium with hardly any fans, and then Bristol Rovers. And I don't like Bristol Rovers. I've said that to you before. I don't like them. And unless we go to their place, got lovely pies at their place. If they can bring the pies along with us and give it to our catering team, happy days. I might like them again. But it's just, they're nothing fixtures. In a way, we sort of need a big team down our place. I'm trying to think of the big teams that are in our league now. Luton are gone.
Well, that's it. That was the only ones, I'm
just trying to
like
think
Sunderland,
about
Portsmouth, Ipswich. Of course, we're not going to get them because we've already played them. But they are the big teams.
Do you know what I mean? It just feels like the fans are waiting for something to happen with the team, and I'm not as convinced that the team can do that at the moment.
It is an incredible week in the sense that 2 home games, a midweek game away at Coventry, who have won 4 at home out of 4 this season, whereas we've lost 4 out of 4 away this season. And do you know, conceivably, because football is a funny old game, you can end this week being 7 points better off. We actually could be.
Or 9.
or even 9. But yeah, okay.
Well, I've just you were
Yeah,
talking
we
in
could-
the fantasy
yes.
world, so I thought I'd just increase it.
This is true. Unfortunately, for me at the moment, I think I need to sort of investigate where I am at the moment with this team and this club, and because there's a lot of resentment has built up, unfortunately, over these Milton Keynes fixtures, and I'm not sure. Who knows? We can get 9 points out of 9, but I'm never going to forget that afternoon in Milton Keynes. I'm afraid I'm never going to forget that.
No, and I think
because I was that let down and that hurt by it.
Do you know what? And I can live with a team not being very good. I can live with that.
Of course.
I've got nothing against the players in this. There's nothing personal against any of them. There's some really nice lads in that team, but unfortunately, we're moving into a new ground in the summer. Yeah, it all seems to be overshadowed by playing against them, not knowing where the money's going to come from for the ground, which I know we're going to move on to. And it just feels there's a lot of stuff in the background. We don't have a big enough Dons Trust board. The size of them, we don't have enough people. We've got elections coming up, which I worry about these elections because actually there's some people already on the Dons Trust board that I think would be totally stuffed if they don't get back on. There's just so many things off the pitch. The lack of communication. It just feels like, I think probably a good opportunity to go on to the Dons Trust board meeting. It just feels like you have a meeting every 3 months, and if things have changed, and you think, why have we not been told? And then you sort of understand why you've not been told, because guys are actually, guys and ladies are rushed off their feet in the Dons Trust board, and it's just. I think we're starting. For me now, I'm thinking maybe we are too big for League One. People kept saying we should never got promoted.
Hold on, too big for.
Sorry, too small for League One. Sorry. Maybe we are. We just don't have the infrastructure, and a lot of things that I get frustrated about, I don't really want to moan, because actually it's not through the sake of someone deliberately doing something. It's actually just the fact we don't have enough people. I joked to you that we increased our management team, and we've got now a masseur, and we've got an extra people and extra coaches. Why do we not put that in the back office? Because the poor people in the administration offices rushed off their feet any time we get a big fixture. Thankfully, no one's coming at the moment, so they're probably okay at the moment. But if we did get better, or we've got a big cup game, they're rushed off their feet. I just think the infrastructure of the team now, we're starting to see it, and I've chatted to a number of people who've gone, Stu, we can't cope with this. It's going to not topple, but I think we're starting to see that. We should be looking forward to going to Plough Lane, but so many questions and concerns.
Is that the great irony or dichotomy of where we are as a club, that we do parade and we call this podcast after it 9 years? It only took us 9 years to get back into the Football League. Was it too quick? Did we get carried away on the crest of success on the pitch and to the detriment of things off the pitch? When we get to this level, it appears that way. We are creaking, bursting at the seams.
And don't get me wrong, it's not me moaning because we're getting beat every week, and I've not really enjoyed watching football at Wimbledon for the last probably 2.5 seasons. I can live with getting beat. I'm a Wimbledon fan. I'm used to getting beat. I think it's more of a case now, just feeling a little bit beat up, of going, there's so much for everyone to do. And I know quite a lot of the Dons Trust board personally, and we get on well with Joe Palmer, and you only have to talk to, I can trust you. You've only got to talk to Joe Palmer for 10, 15 minutes to understand that we're in very safe hands. However, it's just him, doing a lot of work with Mark Davis, and you just sort of, you feel for them. See, I spoke to him on Monday night, but I didn't want to be negative, because actually, do you know what? He doesn't need that. And I actually don't think it's his fault. So he's sort of like, the podcast in a way is our chance of moaning for the things we want to say, but actually knowing it's not really their fault. I'm not going to say it to their face, unfortunately, because that would just be rude, because I don't think they do it deliberately. But we are starting to see the creaking of this club at the moment.
Dons Trust meeting on Monday night then just gone. We're running very late, unsurprisingly. Yeah, just a couple of things. You've already talked about the mediation and what have you. We've touched on that side of things. The other thing, I think, you came out and you've also mentioned about Mark Davis, the Monday meeting thing, which for me is just like my head exploded. I was just thinking, you've got a full-time job.
I was stunned.
How are you doing that?
Yeah, Mark Davis is an interesting one, because in terms of Dons Trust board chair, he's not as vocal as previous chairs have been. However, and I chat to quite a few people that I know, and they will speak nothing but great words about him. And I just sat there and thought, you're giving up every Monday morning. How can you keep doing that? If he wasn't, he's up for election a couple of months now. Yeah, what we September, so we're coming up a couple of months. He will no doubt stand, but to me, he's probably one of the lower profile Don Trust board chairs. However, I think it's imperative that he stays on because, you know, I've put my hand on I've put my hand up now. I'm going to vote for him straight away because actually I don't think you can disturb what's going on because we don't need a disruption now of new people coming on the board and potentially losing people that are doing a work that actually is for the greater good of the ground in the summer.
What else did we glean from Monday's meeting? Well, sorry to be negative. Oh my God. This is really bad, isn't it? I'm just looking back now, 55 minutes where we just basically just ranted.
We've just whinged. And if someone comes in, we've just whinged, haven't we? But
yeah. Oh, well. Yeah, I mean, it's not all bad. The big picture's all good. We're back home. The stadium's looking fantastic, or sounds fantastic, considering what we thought we might end up with. It's all coming together. But we have agreed by a vote at the meeting to allow the football club board to take out a loan of £11 million of up to £11 million. So it could be £2 million. It could be as much as 11, but it could be as much as £11 million. We voted that through. Stu, there are approximately 3,000 Don's Trust members. As I made the point to you on Monday, 3,000 Don's Trust members. There was about 100 in the room.
Yeah.
Might be generous.
Yeah, I think it was about 100, yeah.
About 100. It's about 3% of the membership. The decision to take out £11 million worth of bank loans has been put through by 3% of the membership. That's a bit of a problem. And I'm not blaming anyone for it, really. I'm not saying those who weren't at the meeting are not having a go. No, not at all. I don't know what I'm trying to say, really. I'm just trying to think. There's lots of... We've been talking for years, haven't we, about engagement with the Don's Trust and getting people more engaged. Do we just accept that the act of being a Don's Trust member for the majority of people is almost an act of benevolence, that they're going to pay their £25 a year? It's good money, it's done in good faith, but really they're quite happy just to take a back seat and let things just carry on without any interruption?
Yeah, I think it is. I think what we tend to do is you tend to trust the people that you voted in on the Don's Trust board. What I would say is that Joe Palmer, Mark Davis, none of the Don's Trust board people that I knew looked worried about this decision. So, you know, Mark was very keen to say, up to £11 million, but we're hopeful we'll get close to the £7 million on the crowdfunding, which then would reduce what we would then borrow. So it wasn't saying we're going to borrow £11 million. Just said, look, we may have to because we need to raise £13 million. At the moment, we only have 2 from the crowdfunding. How we get to £7 million, I don't think we will. What Mark did say though was that they had looked at a number of financing options. So they was looking about mortgaging and moving the loan money around to get the best rate. So yes, £11 million. Crikey, you said it to me afterwards, and it only suddenly dawned on me, yeah, there's only 100 people, and we just made a massive decision going, yes, you can borrow £11 million. That will cost us a lot of money in interest over the years, and we just made that decision. Yeah, I have confidence in them, but it's a lot. This is where I worry a little bit, in terms of it's a lot of money. Sometimes in football, especially in the higher end of the game, in the Man Cities, you may say that how much Liverpool spend on these Dutch centre half Van Dijk, what he's called, 70 million. You say it. You say 70 million, but in a football world, 70 million is actually, that's a centre half, but that ain't a lot of money in the Premiership. But when you say £11 million in League One, bearing in mind that our budget for the squad is probably £2 million a season, so we're saying we're basically going to borrow up to five times our yearly budget. It just, it's a bit worrying, isn't it? And but that's where we are. It was all agreed. I think there was 20 proxies, so even the people that didn't come to the meeting, only 20 of the 2,900, if we say there were 100 at the meeting, there's only 20 that actually decided that they wanted to pass that. So, guessing the Don's Trust members were happy with that.
Anything else you wanted to mention from Monday?
I'm worn out, if I'm being truthful. Do you know what? There was good things about the ground. There's only one option now on the on the ground. It's going to be semi-permanent stands, but it's going to be a bowl effect. Interesting when Mark Davis was saying that it's going to be 11 rows deep. And when you think that the pull strength sand is 8 rows, so it's going to be a little bit taller. I think that'll look quite smart. And he said there's going to be a virtual view soon, being like a website from the North Stand, so you can see the ground. We chatted to a few people, and when we chatted to Joe, and he said that we should start seeing stuff come out of the ground. Sounds like Transformers, doesn't it? But we should see now a visual sight of the ground. We should start seeing things being built above.
A visual sight of the ground.
Yeah.
What are those visual sights?
I suppose all the work's been done underneath what you can't see. And if you go past Plough Lane, and I've not been past there for many a months, but in the pictures you just see the flats going up at a ridiculous rate. But we should start seeing that. What else was there? They talked about we're tight for next summer, potentially going into Plough Lane, and they were looking at potentially what I think I said to you a little while ago, that we probably would request go to the EFL League and hope they like us again. See if we can play away games probably early on, and then play that. But official capacity 9,300, and there was segregation. Someone asked about if Pompey come down or a big team, could we move to segregation, and we can. So from the ground point of view, there was some really good stuff. Just until we got to the financing.
I'm just thinking, looking back, reflecting on the podcast this week, where we have had rants and moans, and I'm sure there are people listening that are probably thinking it, because I'm thinking it now, as you're saying, sort of a bit worn out. I am worn out thinking about it all. There's so much going on. Problems that we perhaps have identified and solutions to them. I guess it's really difficult. I suppose the thing that I'm thinking for myself to do now is go away and actually reflect on everything that I'm thinking about the club and the things we've mentioned about the fixture with Milton Keynes and other bits and pieces, and thinking, what can I actually do? Is the right thing to do? Is the right thing to do to just shut up and stop moaning? Because we've got, like you say, we've got this stadium that's nearly there, and so much work is being put into that. Or is there things that we can be getting on with to change that can be done without affecting too much of people's workloads that you've already mentioned? Currently, those within the club are snowed under with. I don't know. I need to go away and think about that, I think. Because no doubt we're going to have people listening that are going, just shut up. You're just moaning and not helping.
Hey, look, do you know what? As fans, we moan. We moan. That's what fans are good at. And I think people that listen to the podcast would have said that we don't. We do tend to look at a lot of the positive side in it. But there's sometimes when it all gets on top of you a little bit. And I know personally, I'm finding it very difficult to watch. I'm not going away games this year. That's a mixture down to the fact I've got a young boy I want to spend time with, and I don't really want him to get used to seeing the Wimbledon team lose too much early on, even though he claps when we score goals, bless him. So he's not seen too much this year.
No, he didn't. Someone just announced the away attendance.
But I think my enjoyment goes to the fact of, and this is why I sometimes look about the future, and I understand that we've probably got some fans listening who are going, "Do you know what, I don't. All that stuff is just baggage. Let's just move on." And I understand that to a certain extent. I have a son that's going to grow up watching football at Plough Lane. I couldn't be more proud on that. But at the moment, it's a rocky road. And I think, we are just probably reflecting how the fans are feeling. It's like walking through tree court at the moment. It's just tough going. And yes, you would like the team on the pitch to maybe give you a bit of that feel-good factor. But unfortunately, we're competing in a very tough league that's very difficult on the money we've got. But like I say, things like the weekend didn't help. But I'm sure we get over it. I'm sure, there's a lot of good stuff going on. There's some great people behind the scenes who, all I'll say on the social media, and I've seen a few of them being caned this week, is just be aware of how much work they're having to do with very limited resources. It's not a perfect world.
It isn't a perfect world. You're absolutely right. We are pretty much at the end of the podcast here. We've not played the game yet, so I think we should do, because we always do.
Cool. I'm worn out. Now I want me to play a game.
Yes.
But I done well last week, so I'm all right with that.
We'll see how you get on this week. I was struggling, I'm not going to lie, this week with basically what to do. So this week I looked up the starting 11 from the team that played the very first time we played in Buckinghamshire in that FA Cup game that we referenced earlier.
Yeah.
and I'd just be interested to get your how many of that 11 you can get, how many you can name.
So I've moaned about them for about 50 minutes.
No.
Now you want me to remember the game?
I want you to remember the first game we played when we lost 2-1 in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And that team that actually I was very proud of that day, immensely proud of that day, despite the fact most of them were lone players or basically essentially just rubbish.
Yeah.
Do you want to... Shall I say do 3, 2, 1?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. What you say? You think you can get a few?
4, 5?
Okay, let's take that as par this week. So 3, 2, 1, go.
Cool. So Neil Sullivan.
Yeah.
Stephen Gregory.
Yeah.
Sammy Moore?
No.
Luke Moore?
Yeah.
Tony Ajala?
Yeah.
Jack Midson?
Yeah.
Christian Jolly?
No.
Struggling now already. I can't think of the centre-halves would have been that time. No, I think I was right at 4 or 5 at push. No, I can't think anymore.
5.
Okay.
I'll read you the full 11 then. And that is Neil Sullivan, who you said. Some of these are great, Stu. Curtis Asano.
Oh, yeah. Bloody hell.
Will Antwi.
Oh, the most intelligent footballer, apparently.
Yes. Yado Mambu.
Oh, wow. The brick from Charlton. Let me just say, the brick. B is a big lad. B for Bravo, I did say yes.
You did say that. Fenlon. Jim Fenlon.
Wow.
Yeah. Toby Ajala, you said. Stephen Gregory, you said. Luke Moore, you said. Stacey Long.
Wow. Who we signed from... That was a big signing at the time, wasn't it, when we signed Stacey Long in terms of non-league? He was well known in non-league.
He was.
Yeah. Blonde highlights.
Yes. Byron Harrison, and then, as you mentioned, Jack Midson, who with the goal. So, yeah, there you go. That was the 11. Happy days. You got 5. Well done. There's other football happening this weekend. I don't care. The ladies are in action this weekend. They're away to AFC Basildon in the league on Sunday. That's at Canvey Island FC last week. Yeah, Basildon, yes.
Proper Essex.
Indeed. They beat Stevenage last week with 2 goals from Katie Stanley, who was man of the match. Sophie Manzi and Helen Ogle got the other goals. They had lost in a week last week after we'd finished recording last week's podcast to Actonians in that replayed cup game. But success in the league, good win over Stevenage, Basildon away this... I'm knackered now, I'm breathless. This Sunday, a 2 p.m. kickoff. Last week, Music Quiz was stumped you all, apparently. It was a new sensation by the band called Satan Takes a Holiday. 2019, probably the most recent up-to-date song we've ever played on the podcast. If you recognise the tune that started this week's, can you tweet us at 9YRS Podcast, please? Otherwise, Twitter will also be the home of updates from the game with Shrewsbury on Saturday. And there's the Love Sport show. We'll be discussing that game and previewing the midweek trip to Coventry with George Jones this Sunday from 8 p.m. Love Sport Radio. That is, I think we've covered everything, haven't we, Stu? We've gone long, but hey.
Yeah, I'm tired now. I need to sleep.
I'm shattered. I've not slept. I honestly have not slept properly since Saturday. It's wound me up that much.
I switched off quite easily. I just until Monday. I think it's the benefit of my son at the moment. Just doesn't see anything bad in the world, so he's quite a good person. Just to he keeps smiling still.
He does. That's good. Do you know what? Sorry, that is a very nice way to end it, and I should end it there, Stu. But you've reminded me because I didn't switch off because I stomped back to the station after the game in a fucking rage, and of course I forget that goddamn train stops. Where does it fucking stop on its way back to Euston?
Where?
Watford fucking Junction.
Yeah, but they got no manager, haven't they? So
they never have a manager. No. They're a joke. 18 managers since the year 2000. It's one a year.
Just think about that. They can't recall Felivi, can they, by any chance? Not that I'm saying he should go back to Watford, but does that... I'm sure Felivi's not at the top of the new managers' priorities, but just thinking out loud.
No. Anyway, on that note, thank you very much for joining us. We still haven't found out where Ray is, so if someone can actually point Ray out to us, that would be very, very handy. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last. I will calm down, I promise you. Thank you for joining us. See you next Friday.